I inherited my uncle's farm after he passed away, surrounded by nothing but cornfields that stretched to the horizon, 30 minutes from the nearest town. The house was old, probably built in the 1950s, and had been sitting empty for 3 years. I figured it was better than my cramped apartment in the city. Since I could work remotely, I desperately needed a break from urban life. The corn was already waist high when I arrived, rustling constantly in the breeze. It reminded me of my childhood days when I used to play in the cornfields with my brother. My uncle had rented the land to a neighbor who continued farming it. A scarecrow stood sentinel in the middle of the field, watching over everything in its vicinity. I started settling into the house by dusting away 3 years' worth of accumulated grime. After finishing the move and unloading my car, I rewarded myself with a beer that night. One turned into several, and exhausted from the day's work, I fell asleep. The next morning I woke up late. After months in that suffocating apartment, I was thrilled to have a house with actual ground around it. I stepped straight out the front door to bask in the morning sun, enjoying the natural breeze. Suddenly, I noticed something odd. The scarecrow was missing from its post. I figured it must have fallen over and made a mental note to fix it later. I drove to the town for groceries. I picked some items and a case of beers. When I returned home, the scarecrow was upright again. The neighbors must have fixed it since they had been renting the farm, I thought. I spent the afternoon working around the house and clearing old belongings from the basement. Among my uncle's possessions, I found a VHS tape. I examined it, but the label was blank, or rather, whatever had been written there had faded beyond recognition. Suddenly, I heard knocking at the front door. I rushed to answer it, but nobody was there. I walked around the property, searching for whoever might have been playing pranks, but I was completely alone. The nearest neighbor lived 2 miles away, so the idea of neighborhood kids seemed unlikely. I noticed the scarecrow wasn't in its original place. It had moved much closer to the edge of the cornfield now. The sight unsettled me, but I shook it off and went back inside, temporarily forgetting about the mysterious tape. That night, I began hearing rustling in the cornfield, as if someone was walking through the stalks. I peered through the windows, but saw nothing in the moonlight. The rustling became a nightly occurrence, and some nights I could swear I heard whispers, distant conversations drifting through the darkness. I was beginning to doubt my decision to move here when, one morning, I found another tape at my front door. That's when I remembered the first tape I discovered. I located an old TV and VHS player upstairs and was grateful to find them in working condition. I inserted the tape, and the screen flickered to life with grainy footage. The first scene showed a man walking deliberately through the cornstalks, as if he knew exactly where he was going. The next shot was filmed from within the stalks, showing my farmhouse with someone sitting on the front porch. The grainy quality made it impossible to identify the figure. Suddenly, the person on the porch turned toward the camera. The cameraman gasped audibly and began running frantically through the corn stalks. Another scene showed the view from an upstairs window, looking down at a figure standing, motionless among the stalks. The camera struggled to focus, but when it finally adjusted, the figure was clearly staring directly at the lens. The camera jerked away abruptly, showing only blur and then black screen. The tape ended, leaving me completely baffled. It could have been a prank, but the man in the video looked oddly familiar. I inserted the second tape I'd found on my doorstep, still hoping this was all some elaborate joke. The footage was even more disturbing. More scenes of someone moving through the cornstalks, until a clearing revealed an abandoned house structure. The cameraman entered to find several high-end computers running inside. distant conversation echoed from upstairs before the screen faded to black. The next scene showed someone running through the stalks again. Then came footage from inside my farmhouse, filming my uncle. There were several short clips of my uncle going about his daily routine, but one segment shocked me most. My uncle speaking directly into the camera, mumbling something I couldn't understand. In another clip, my uncle appeared again, but there was a figure in the background. Too grainy to determine if it was actually a person or just a hanging coat. The final segment showed my uncle speaking clearly to the camera.
I need to get away. I need to get away from here. I need to get away. I need to get away!
He repeated several times before returning to incoherent mumbling. When the screen went black, I sat frozen, staring at the TV. I replayed the clip a few times, but I still couldn't make out what he was saying. The sound was too low, and it almost sounded like a foreign language. Who made these tapes? My uncle clearly knew about them. He'd kept them hidden in his basement. But what was he trying to say? I drank myself to sleep that night. The next morning, as I headed to the market, I found a blood-stained knife at my front door. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I immediately packed my belongings and fled back to my city apartment. I couldn't risk staying any longer to see what might happen next. I couldn't bring myself to call 911 or ask for help from anyone in town. My dream of peaceful country living was shattered, and I saw no point in staying. Sometimes I still think about that incident. I remember asking my mother about the cause of my uncle's death. They said it was a heart attack, but I have my doubts, especially since there was a post-mortem examination. I don't know what my parents might be keeping from me. Was it a conspiracy by the neighbor over land rights? What was on those tapes? Who was the man filming my uncle? And how could my uncle appear in the same footage? Who was that mysterious figure? What was lurking in those cornfields? And why were there high-end computers in an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere? A month later, I finally got access to my uncle's post-mortem report. It mentioned severe heart trauma, but some sections of the document had been blacked out with a marker, and the official time of death was incorrect. What was really going on? I may never know, as I'm never returning to that house, ever again.
If you have enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more stories. Until next time.